Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to The Explainer, everyone. Today, we're unpacking one of the most intense, genuinely profound moral paradoxes a human being can possibly face. We're looking at that razor's edge, where divine morality meets brutal, unforgiving necessity. It's a fascinating intersection, and it asks some really hard questions about the nature of duty, personal sacrifice, and honestly, the condition of a person's soul when they are forced to step into the dark. So here's the big question. Can a good person do evil things for the right reasons? I mean, really think about that for a second. How does a righteous person, someone with a deeply grounded moral compass, survive stepping into the shadows just to protect the innocent? What happens to their mind and their spirit when they essentially have to become a monster just to fight monsters? This right here is the core dilemma of the shadow path. And to really grasp it, we first need to look at two very different, very ancient frameworks. That brings us to section 1, the paradox, two paths. On one side of the spectrum, you have what's known as the right-hand path. This is all about adherence to universal moral codes, the law, and submission to the divine. It's playing by the ultimate rules. But on the flip side, you have the left-hand path. Now, this path is characterized by breaking taboos. It's about embracing shadow work, utilizing deceit, utilizing violence, and relying purely on self-determination to get the job done. The ultimate moral paradox happens when someone who is tasked with upholding the right-hand path is forced, by sheer necessity, to use the brutal tools of the left. Let's explore how this plays out in Section 2, Fiction versus Reality, Characters and Clandestine Operations. To really picture this, consider the spectrum of emotional detachment through the lens of the classic pulp fiction series The Destroyer. Look at the character Remo Williams. He's the reluctant sinner. He perfectly represents the Western conscience. He knows murder is a sin, so he feels this immense spiritual guilt, even when he absolutely recognizes the utility of his actions in a corrupt world. Then, contrast him with Chun, the aesthetic operator. For Chun, assassination isn't a sin at all. It's a sacred, ancient art form. He operates completely outside of Western moral guilt. The incredibly heavy burden for the Western operator is that they just cannot adopt Chun's pure detachment. They are forced to commit the act while feeling the full, crushing weight of it. Now, you might be thinking this is just some fun concept reserved for 1970s martial arts cinema. Actually, scratch that. It is grounded in very, very harsh reality. In the United States, Title 50 authority is what governs covert action. Officers of the CIA Special Activities Center, specifically the Special Operations Group, or SOG, live this exact dichotomy every single day under this authority. Their entire existence revolves around plausible deniability, operational security, and tactical deception. Imagine being a godly person in that clandestine environment. You are literally asked to master the tools of the adversary, lying, manipulating human assets, sabotage. The burden of deceit is massive. A Christian is commanded not to bear false witness, yet an intelligence officer's survival depends entirely on maintaining a bulletproof cover story. Plus, they're tasked with the immense weight of preemptive strikes, which is a ruthless application of force to prevent even greater catastrophes. These operators have to live a highly compartmentalized life. They must be absolute apex predators out in the field, while their spiritual framework requires them to be humble servants at home. So how do they manage it? Let's look at Section 3, Guarding the Soul, the Spiritual Survival Guide. Have you ever heard of a sin eater? In historical folklore, a sin eater was someone who consumed a ritual meal to literally take on the sins of a deceased person. They were damnably sacrificing themselves so that the other person could enter heaven. While a righteous operator on the left-hand path acts as a modern-day sin eater, you are willingly sacrificing your own pristine spiritual condition, taking on the immense karmic and moral weight of violence and deceit so that the civilian flock can sleep peacefully at night. It is a profound, staggering act of sacrifice. But here's the crucial point. Embracing that sin eater archetype is just the foundation. To truly keep the faith, operators have to rely on 3 core mechanics. First, guard against hubris. When you possess the power of life and death outside the law, you must practice a radical humility to avoid the trap of self-deification. Second, intent and grief. Grief is quite literally the soul's immune system. You must never, ever learn to love the dirty work. The day you actually enjoy the manipulation is the day the monster wins. And finally, reliance on grace. You just have to accept that in a fallen world, perfect choices do not exist, and human hands cannot perfectly balance this spiritual ledger. And that brings us perfectly to this incredible quote from St. Augustine's just war theory. He wrote, "It is not the act of violence itself that condemns a man, but the malice, cruelty, and bloodlust in his heart. This profound psychological reality of the CIA operative perfectly sets the stage for a cinematic masterclass that explores this exact dynamic on screen. Let's break that down in Section 4, The Masterless Samurai, Ronin in Action. If you've seen the film Ronin, you know it drops us right into this post-Cold War mercenary underworld where deceit and betrayal are pretty much the only rules. Yet, characters like Sam and Vincent fiercely hold on to a moral anchor. For men operating totally outside the law, their strict professionalism replaces religious law. When they execute surgical, preemptive strikes, it's completely devoid of sadism. It's done solely to protect the team. Furthermore, in a landscape that's entirely defined by profit and betrayal, they prioritize saving their teammates' lives, forming this unspoken, sacred brotherhood. That loyalty, that is a shining right-hand virtue operating deep within a left-hand world. We actually see the restraint of the Sin Eater beautifully illustrated in one very specific, famous scene. Sam realizes that one of their team members is a complete fraud. But instead of killing him or causing unnecessary collateral damage, Sam just humiliates the guy with a really simple coffee cup trick. He essentially forces him off the team before his incompetence can get people killed. It's a brilliantly non-lethal de-escalation tactic that proves Sam knows exactly how to navigate the darkness without letting it consume him. And that leads right into the climax. In Section 5, I Never Left, the final resolution. Towards the end of the film, as the trap is closing, Deirdre, who fully believed Sam was just another gun for hire, realizes he's actually CIA. He used to be government. And Sam replies with 3 devastating words, I never left. This revelation is literally everything. It shows that Sam was never actually a masterless mercenary. His moral compass never shattered after the Cold War. He went deep into the mercenary underworld. He absolutely wore the mask of the monster, but he was always firmly tethered to his higher cause and his duty. Now, by doing this, Sam commits the absolute ultimate operational sin. He intentionally breaks his cover. But why does he do it? Because it is a profound act of mercy. He breaks his cover to offer true grace and right-hand path compassion to Deirdre. He knows she is in way over her head and on a direct collision course with a kill box. By stripping away all the left-hand deception, he gives her the truth so she actually has the choice to drop her weapon and walk away with her life. And this brings us to our final lingering thought. How does a righteous operator survive the spiritual toll of the left-hand path? By accepting dirty hands, but striving daily for a clean heart. Like Sam, they may wade through the mud, but they keep their eyes fixed on the sky. It is a lonely, agonizing road for those called to be the shield against the dark. Their ultimate cost is their own peace, sacrificed so the rest of us can maintain ours. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. I want to leave you with one final provocative question to think about. When the monster is finally at the gates, what are you willing to sacrifice to keep it from getting inside?